Hello from Athens, Greece. Hi everyone from Inessa. I'm so happy I'm here today because I think this video has been long overdue. And today is the most perfect reason for me to be here. You know that exactly a year ago, on July 31st, I landed in Portugal, which started my whole new journey as a world nomad. And I want to celebrate. I don't know, it feels truly amazing right now to realize I've been doing it for the whole year. And I was thinking of shooting this video for a while, and I think today is the perfect, date. And I know there are so many people asking me different questions about my experiences. I know some of you who are watching my journey on my Instagram, from my stories and other things, you know a little bit about it because I shared in the moment. But I'm meeting people during my journey, and every time I tell them how I live and what I do, I see amazement, curiosity on their faces because they're like, wow, you're living the dream. Aren't we all dreaming of doing something like this? And I agree. I laugh and I say, yes, absolutely. I know I am living the dream. So guys, this whole video is purely my experience, my opinions, and everything that I share is purely, from my point of view. So if you have other thoughts about the country or the lifestyle, you are entitled to that. I hope you're here just to learn my experience, and you're gonna enjoy it and learn something new, or just, have fun listening to me. So what exactly do I want to share? I'm gonna say that from the very beginning, this was not much planned. I just knew for a while, before I started this journey, that I didn't want to live in America. I don't know how to explain this, but the more I traveled the world, and when I was coming back to LA, I just felt that this is not home, And they say your home is where your heart is, and I just felt my home is not there. I know you may ask, so did you find your home? And I cannot answer this question now. And from one point of view, I can say that I've learned that I pretty much can live anywhere because it's just about integrating in the community. And as a person who, moved long time ago when I was 22 to a new country and had started a new life completely from scratch, this is not something new for me. But to say that I found home, I don't think I can just yet. I've been close, and so let me go back to how it all started. Originally, after deciding that I don't want to live in America anymore, I thought of the next best place to go to, and that was Canada, because my friend lives there and because I like the people and the communities there. So I've been going to Canada like every year, even sometimes twice a year, or even maybe 3 times in the past like 8 years. So I knew like the Canadian lifestyle a little bit. The only downside for me was the weather. As a person who lived in Florida and California for the past 18 years, of course I'm used to warm climates, so that was the only thing that was like a big minus for me. And I was so set already on going and moving to Canada because of my best friend, because I thought I already have a community I know there. And in May I went to Canada to look for apartment, and I found a couple great ones, and I even started the process. I was approved, and they said you just need to put the deposit and you can move in. But then I knew something when I got that email where they said you're all set, you just need to put the deposit and your documents look good. And then I just felt it's like it's not right. It's not right. I know it from the bottom of my heart that going to Canada is not the answer, at least not at that moment. So that was May, right? And June was my birthday, my 40th birthday last year. So I went to Hawaii to think about it, to just completely, be with my thoughts, feel my heart. and I knew there that I'm definitely not going to Canada. So the question was, what do I do? And then I started talking to some of my friends, and I have a friend, my dear Vera. She's older, so she has a daughter in Portugal. And as I was saying about how I feel and what I want to do, and that I don't want to live in America anymore, she said, well, let me talk to my daughter and see what they can offer, because they have a big house, and I know they renovated the first floor of the house as a separate apartment, so maybe they can rent it out to you. And I said, will you please find out? So she did contact me back within a couple days and said, yes, they're willing to rent out for you the first floor, like a separate apartment of their home in Portugal. And I knew, that's it, I'm going. I just, how I knew? I just got so excited. I was just like, I don't know, I felt butterflies, I felt happiness, and I knew this reaction was the right one. I thought at the time this was the answer, and it actually was. So that's why I decided to go to Portugal. I did visit Portugal once, like in 2023, and I knew I loved it. I knew at the time, I was there only for like 3 days, and I was like, this place is lovely, so I definitely should come back. And I think this was the perfect opportunity for me to go back and live for a little bit in Portugal, to learn, Portuguese culture. And at the time, I've been already learning some Portuguese, even though it was Brazilian Portuguese. I thought, might be easier since I know a little bit of Portuguese. Obviously, I've learned later that how different the European Portuguese is with the Brazilian one, but I still already kind of knew the basics, So when I came to Portugal, I was living in Cascais, and if you know what it is, it's a little bit more on the fancier side, and that's where the house was. They say Cascais is like Beverly Hills of Portugal, and in truth, I did feel like I was in California. So when I moved there, when I went there, I just felt like I'm almost like in California, but with some touch of Europe. Because I was living close to the ocean, like 15 minutes to the ocean where I could walk. And, I already knew people who was kind of introducing me to the culture, because they've lived there for a few years by then. And so they took care of me, they showed me around, and that was a great experience. And, I said to myself, I really want to live in Portugal. I just feel this is a place for me, or at least for a longer period of time, like a year or two, And so I started some documentation. So I was like thinking I'm gonna get a visa while in Portugal, and it turned out that's not how it works. I already did NIF, like the tax, the tax document identification, and I also opened a bank account in Portugal. But then it turned out with what I can do with my situation is the digital nomad visa. But unfortunately, with Portuguese laws and regulations, I needed to be in America and to file that visa while at my place of residency, which is California. And I was like, no way, I just came to Portugal. I don't want to go back to America, even if it's for the visa, because you'll have to go back to America, apply, at embassy for the visa, and wait for the process there. And there was another couple like stipulations on the visa requirement itself that I didn't quite like. That was about the housing situation, because they wanted you to sign the lease without living in Portugal and paying money for the apartment that you don't live in. So it made no sense to me, and I said, wait, something is not right, so I'm gonna wait. But I did have already a plan like a year ago lined up for me to go to Switzerland, because my friends were going to vacation, to Australia for like a whole month. And they have the whole house with 2 cats and 2 fish tanks. And because they knew, I met them before, they knew that I'm traveling and love travel, they asked, ask her if, Inessa wants to house sit for us when we are going to be gone in Australia. So I agreed to that prior, long time, like a year before that. So I knew I needed to be in Switzerland. And I've learned that Switzerland, even though it's not European Union, it is a part of Schengen zone. And so with my American passport, I only can be in Europe at the time, 90 days. And already being in Portugal almost 2 months, I'm like, oh no, I have to leave, because if I wanted to go and house sit in Switzerland, I cannot stay longer in Portugal because my day is gonna run out and I'm not gonna be able to come back. So that's why I'm telling you the whole story behind my situation. I had to quickly figure out what to do next. And I started to think, where do I go if I can't stay in Europe? Because I was in Portugal in August and September, and I needed to come back to Switzerland mid-December. So I was like, I have 2.5 months to be out of Europe somewhere else, to come back later to Switzerland. And then what I do, start looking for options. And I have friends, all over the world. And I was talking sometimes to some of them. And I have a friend in Abu Dhabi. And when I talked to him, he said, come, I have a place to stay. You're more than welcome. I work Monday through Friday, but we'll hang out on weekends. And so I said, Abu Dhabi, never thought of going there, but let's do it. Why not, right? I am a free person. I can do whatever I want. And at the time, it was a perfect opportunity to have somewhere to go and to enjoy, experience a completely new culture. And I know a lot of people, like Slavic, Russian people, because it's easier, they do go to Dubai a lot. And I was like, okay, never wanted to go there, but let's see what it's all about. So the moment of truth was to be open to whatever comes my way, to be adventurous, and adventurous I was. So I went to Abu Dhabi, and it definitely was a very interesting new experience, not what I expected. One of the things that I've learned that was the most surprising for me, for like Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Emirates in general, it turned out to have the best food I've ever tried. Yes, seriously. I was surprised myself, because when I was going, to Emirates, I was like, well, I know it's a desert area, so food probably gonna be okay. But how wrong was I? I don't know, because I don't know, some of you know Emirates or not. It's all about, growing new stuff. It's technological, it's rich, it's cool. So I've learned that they're making sure that the food has the best quality. And maybe that's why the food to me in Abu Dhabi or Emirates was delicious. I was there exactly a month, and probably in the whole month I ate out a lot, because in the morning I usually eat breakfast home, but for lunch, dinner, I would be out somewhere eating. And I think within a month only 2 places that I went to was okay, but the rest, oh my gosh, it was the best experiences in my mouth. Oh my gosh, each time I was eating, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best food I've ever had. And I kept being surprised with each place I would go to. I was like, I can't believe food here is so good. And so I liked Abu Dhabi because that's where I stayed, because it had a little more to offer as to sightseeing, because there is obviously the, Great Mosque. There is a presidential palace. There's also Team Lab, which I love, from Japan, And I mean, went to Dubai every weekend to kind of have, experience that part as well. But to me, the whole Emirates is about work, business, and eating and spending money, because Emirates wasn't cheap, especially with the housing situation and everything. And there was a lot of those new technological things. If you go to, with a friend, we went to a museum of the future, and like even the mall has those interactive, or how do you say, like very cool high art, exhibits. And I think in the month I was in Emirates, I was seriously overwhelmed. My whole system, like nervous system, was overwhelmed with lights and sounds and this like big wow moments. Like, so I know how kids feel when they're overstimulated. I was overstimulated by the time. And my plan was to stay in the Emirates for 2.5 months until I have to go back to Switzerland. And due to some personal circumstances, situation came that I had to leave and I couldn't stay in Abu Dhabi anymore. And here I came to another situation where I sit and I don't know where to go next. Because even though, guys, you realize that the world is your oyster, you can go anywhere, but I also want to go to the place that I'm going to enjoy, that kind of has something of curiosity for me or something interesting. And so at the time I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube, the travel ones, and I've never been to Asia besides Japan. And I love Japan, but people keep saying, stop going to Japan, go to other countries in Asia. And I think this will be an opportunity to go to Asia, because if you know on the map, Emirates like is already kind of halfway to Asia, and it was like 7-8 hours to like some Asian countries. And I also thought, why not? I was watching this couple on YouTube, and they show it so beautifully. They went and traveled through Asia. And at the time I was thinking of where to go next. They were in Bali. And I thought, I know I used to want to go to Bali a long time ago, but I didn't have that interest anymore. But what made me decide to go to Bali is the memory that I met a guy on one of my flights to Japan, previous times. On the plane, I was sitting next to the guy and I was reading a book, and he saw what I was reading and we started talking. And so, we became friends because we were flying like for 12 hours at the time from LA, to Japan. And when we were talking, he told me that he has Airbnb in Bali. So if I ever found myself in Bali, I'm more than welcome to come and, stay at his place, which is Airbnb, rent out Airbnb. And he said he will give me a discount, And so when I was thinking of Bali, and I was like, Bali, interesting. But I remembered him, and I was like, let me text him and see if he's still renting out Airbnbs. I texted him, and he surprisingly answered like within 10 minutes. And so I started asking him, and he's like, yes, I'm still here in Bali. I'm renting out. There is an Airbnb, a villa that I have. He sends me the pictures of what it is, and he sent me, he said that he will give me a great discount, which he did, because I was planning to come for a month and a half. So after like half an hour, I decided that I'm going to Bali. The first was a surprise trip to Emirates, and Bali was surprise too. And so I bought the tickets, I paid for Airbnb, and I left to Bali. I think I left like November 1st. So I spent the whole October in Abu Dhabi, and November 1st I went to Bali. And that was absolutely unique experience for me, because I didn't know what to expect from Bali. I know people went there for beautiful scenery, and a lot of people go there to find themselves, to meditate and do those different practices, yogas and stuff. I was like, I love yoga, I do meditation, so probably this is a place for me. But when I arrived there, first few days were like a shock, because so many scooters, so many people, such tiny roads, no traffic regulations, no, lights, no stop signs. So people are just going with the flow. And I remember that moment when I was in my taxi going to the villa and seeing what's going on. It felt to me like one big organism that knows what to do, because even though there is not like stop signs or anything, people just intuitively knew where to go, what to do. And in the craziness that I saw on the road, because it was like an hour, I think an hour ride from airport, I saw like I didn't see like angry driving, I didn't see honking much, I just saw people in the flow. And I knew right there that it's gonna be an interesting experience. So the villa that I stayed at was wonderful. And to tell you more, so it was a villa with 6 different apartments, but it's like one territory. So we have our, like rooms with bathrooms, like a separate, personal territory. But we had kitchen, living room, like a gazebo, patio outside, a beautiful one, and the pool all in one area. So the 6 apartments that had people, we always like met and mingled in the common area, so in what happened for me in those month and a half, pretty much for most of it, I was sitting on my villa a lot because I swam every day. Swimming for me is one of the best things. Cooked, read outside, and I was on the 2nd floor. I had like a little patio with my sitting area where I would read and do my yoga. And then you meet people just in the, in the living room or in the pool. You sit and talk to people, because a lot, as Airbnb, obviously some people stayed for a few days, some people stayed for a week. I got to meet some people and make new friends from all over the world. And one of the things that I talked to them, they said, oh, we come to Bali every year, and we can say that it got progressively worse over time. And I could see it, because the first time, I went for a walk. I love walking, and I lived like 5 minutes from the ocean, from the beach. I came to the beach, I saw the dirtiness, like the sand was dark, yes, I know, the black sand, but the water was like muddy and dirty looking. A lot of tourists at the time, because it was November, and I don't know, I just didn't feel that this is for me. It was interesting experience for me. And next to my villa, it was in like kind of a dead end street, so there was a lot of traffic or people coming and going, just the people who lived in that area. So it was pretty quiet. So the villa that I had was like a paradise. It had everything I needed, and close to it, like 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes walk, there was few cafes where, if I didn't want to, stay home and eat home, I would go out to eat. And I should say, like, the delivery was super cheap for food, for groceries. I ordered a lot of delivery. I did find a great Japanese restaurant nearby where I would go for sushi from time to time, and I did find a great Pilates like studio, like reformer Pilates, where they had a great deal for a month. So I basically just left my villa for Pilates to eat sometimes, and that's it. For the rest of the time, I stayed in my villa. And when I told people that I do hypnotherapy, because Bali is all about, self-search and peace and trying to find what you want in life, I had a couple people that I did sessions for, and it was wonderful. They came to me, I made some money while I stayed in villa, while relaxing, reading, doing my yoga meditation. And I left, like one time I got like a day guided tour where you pay for the whole day, and the guy just comes, picks you up, drives you. And I went to some rice fields to try the the durian, and then also the Kopi Luwak coffee, which I actually liked. I don't know if you guys know about it, but the poop coffee turned out to be better than I expected. Something new, that it was cool to try it, and I've learned that I loved durian as well. Very unique flavor. Yes, smells not well, but the taste was like, to me, reminded of some very creamy ice cream with some fruit. So if you had a chance to try durian, I definitely recommend for you to do so. And then with the rules of Bali, with American passport, I could only stay 30 days. And then I either needed to extend the visa or leave the country and come back. And this is where I decided, well, since I'm already in this Asian countries, South Asian countries, why don't I go and, look for something else? And I went to Kuala Lumpur for 4 nights. I was choosing between Vietnam, so Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and what else do I want to... and Bangkok. I wanted to go to Thailand. So with comparing the prices and like what I wanted to do, I decided to go to Kuala Lumpur. I don't know, the videos that I saw kind of seemed cool to me. And I wanted to tell you, when you watch the videos and you think the country might be cool, it might be a little different experience when you go there in person. Because from what I saw on the videos, Kuala Lumpur seemed to me like great city, something to do. But in reality, when I went there, I got like 1 day tour with a guy, like with a local, where he showed me, and I think there was 2 more guys, like the places to visit. And I think that was it. We saw everything in 1 day, but I still enjoyed it after a month on Bali, which is like a village kind of vibe, I was happy to be in a city, like a bigger city where there was malls, there was some shopping I could do. So 4 nights in Kuala Lumpur was my getaway from the Bali to do like the visa run. And then I came back and stayed 2 more weeks in Bali. And then I went to Switzerland. And so as I'm telling you, realize how different my experiences were. Like Portugal, European, nice country. Then I went to Abu Dhabi, which was like technological, super everything, like cool. Then I went to Bali, that was like a big village. And then hot and humid. I mean, Kuala Lumpur was a little stop, but also afterwards I'm going to Switzerland in the mid-December. So it was a completely drastic change from all the previous experiences. And as I arrived in Switzerland and stayed there for almost a month, it kind of marks exactly 6 months of my, worldly adventures. And what can I say about Switzerland? It's so funny. It was cold. But because I had a friend next door, they were next street over with the whole family, and it was the time of holidays. So we spent a lot of times, gathering with their family. My friend Manu, hi Manu, has wonderful kids that we had so much fun with, and we cooked together and we did some, watching movies and spent the holidays with them. And though it was cold times, it was a very warm times for my heart, because I got to see my friend and her whole family, and we had adventure with Manu, and we spent the night in igloo. And here is, if you haven't seen that video, that was an absolutely amazing experience. I think from the whole 6 months of experiences that I had, staying the whole night in, ice hotel was one of those things that are very unique experiences. I loved it so much, and I felt like a kid again, even though at the time I already thought that I lost that ability. But also in Abu Dhabi, me and my friend did desert safari, when we went in the jeep through the gliding on the sand. There were camels. Also, that's another video if you guys haven't checked out. So please do, and I'm gonna mention it right here as well. That was something unique too, but I didn't last much on the dune gliding thing, and because I was getting too sick. But the whole day was so amazing, and if you ever have the chance, if you go to Emirates, I would definitely recommend doing the desert safari tour for the day, because that is something that is definitely an adventure. And so, in Switzerland, besides like celebrating holidays. They had the carnival there. We went to ice hotel. So even though I can say the month was calm and cool in all the senses, you know, because it was winter, so it was pretty cold. There was so much activities going on, and the community in Switzerland is so lovely. We played games. We went to like a sports game, women team playing new games. I've learned some new games they're doing in Switzerland, which was so cool. And so I'm gonna wrap up this video right now here, because I'm gonna do part 2. And while you're watching this video, if you have any questions about my whole experience, you know, you want to know certain specifics, please comment below with your questions, because I'm gonna do part 2 where I'm gonna, you know, tell you the rest of my 6 months and how they went and what I'm going through right now. And then I'll answer your questions, and I think that's gonna be a cool video and you're gonna know all about it. Oh, and I forgot to mention that as a single girl, I did go to dates in different countries, not all of them, but most of them. And I think that deserves a separate video about the dating experience, my dating experiences in different countries. So let me know if you want to hear all about it in the comments. And I think that's going to be a cool talk next time, because I can answer your questions and we'll tell you more about the last 6 months of my journey. So what do you think about that, guys? I'm gonna wait, you know, I'm gonna wait until you ask all your questions and comment or like the video if you just liked watching me tell my stories. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you, guys.